of the entire day because I get to share a stage with friends and heroes of mine who know way more about me than about growth. And we all just get to talk. So we're going to start from the end here. And what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of share a little bit about our company and how you guys grew. And for context, everyone on this panel had an explosive 2023. And so what we're going to talk about is how they did that. How did you grow? And every single one of these panelists grew in a different way. And so we are going to just kind of dive into that. So everyone's going to kind of share about their business, how they grew, what strategies they used, and then we're just going to open it up and talk about it and talk about how we did that. So Noah will go ahead and start. So introduce yourself.
Sawadi tukun. I'm Thai. This means hello, everyone. In just 4 years, I took my business from barely hitting $1,000 a month out of my small apartment in San Jose to just last month hitting $90,000 in March. Thank you. No, I also don't want to sit up here and say, oh, wow, I'm awesome, look at me, I did this all on my own, right? I also have an amazing team that helped make this possible, that always has my back. My beautiful, hardworking fiance, Jen, who's also the co-founder and chief of operations. So before we jump straight into how I did those numbers, let me just introduce a little bit of background about Dragon Auto and what we do. So we're a specialty niche in the automotive industry where we focus on restoring, protecting, and preserving vehicle exteriors. So we offer services like paint protection film or ceramic window tint, protective coatings, things that help keep cars looking brand new for not just months, but decades. So you can get a one and done service and basically not have to worry about your vehicle looking like junk in 20 years, right? So I'm actually really excited and honored to be speaking up here today because Milpitas was the town that I grew up in. My grandparents moved here in the 70s. My mom and my family went to Milpitas High School, and I myself graduated there in 2015. So when I had the opportunity to open up a shop here in Milpitas, my hometown, I had no idea how much I was actually in store for. It was a lot. But the novelty and the idea of opening a business here where I grew up was just too cool to pass up. So the methods that I used to scale the business was primarily centered around social media. Notably, paid social media ads and organic social media content. So I'll explain both of those up next. This is pretty much just meeting consumers and people where their attention is at. So 25 years ago, the attention was focused on MySpace. 15 years ago, when Facebook first came out, that was the new hot trend. And 5 years ago, TikTok was all the rage, right? And so I don't want to sit here and try to drop thousands of dollars on a billboard ad or a radio ad and just cross my fingers and hope that people hear about me and come in. I'm also not going to sit here and wait 20 years for word of mouth to start spreading and finally start to get some traction. So when I learned how to use paid social media ads, it allowed me to predictably track metrics and fine-tune all these dials at my fingertips to get the exact amount of growth that I wanted. So the first time I started reliably hitting 10K a month, which was about 3 years ago, that was huge for me at the time. I was still borrowing my grandparents' garage and working out of it. But when I wanted to grow further past that and start to move into trying to open up a shop, all I had to do was increase my daily budget, continue to shoot high quality ads, and hire help to handle all the increasing phone calls and texts that we were getting. So the beauty for any business owner in any industry with these strategies, small or big, is that at any point I can just say, you know what, I'm okay with 10K a month. Like, I don't want to grow past that. That's happy where I'm at, and then you can just stop there. If you're spending $100 a day and you're comfortable with that, what that's generating your business, you can just reliably sit there and be confident knowing that you're going to get about 10K per month coming in when you set up paid ads correctly. So most people look at return on investment for things like stocks to be amazing at 20%, or like real estate would be insane if you got 100% ROI. So what if I told you that the ROI for the ad spend that we do is 1,000% more? So we spend $9,000 a month on daily ad spend to make $90,000. So it's a 1,000% return on investment for the ad spend. That's revenue, by the way, not profit. That's revenue. We have overhead, but like, I would rather take the larger number over the smaller number. So eventually, this hits a point where this does fall off at scale. It's not 10x all the way to the moon, but that's usually when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of people are seeing the ads. There's a lot of efficiency that you lose there, but you can still hit pretty decent numbers, 4x, 5x, so on and so forth. I also want to make a note too, because I feel like I'm one of the younger people in the room today. I'm only 27. Started the business when I was 20. And I don't want anyone out there to say, oh, well, I'm too old. Like, the social media thing's beyond me. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Because I didn't come from a marketing or social media, digital marketing background. I don't even have a college degree. I was actually a D student in high school. I had a 2.5 GPA, and I almost didn't walk my senior year. The information is out there for you to self-teach yourself if you want to apply and learn it. There are so many business people and experts in these industries that know far more than I do, that have already proven they know what they're talking about. For example, one that I listen to, his name is Alex Hormozy, makes $100 million $100 million net worth currently, and he's on his way to $1 billion. And he gives out so much of his experience over the last 20 years for free online. Now, some people online are hacks, of course, and you have to vet like who you're listening to, but there are many, many experienced, qualified people on like YouTube that give out just thousands of dollars of free value that you would have to go to college and get an education for, and now it's just available at your fingertips.
There's also companies out there that can help you with that.
True. So yeah, you can invest in courses and mentors, and you can pay people for that, and also, like, there's this cold, hard trial and error experience by getting started. Knowing exactly what to do in the beginning for me was not really the important part at all. It was knowing that I was passionate about what I was doing. As a kid, I grew up around cars, and I always enjoyed working with my hands and building and creating things. And so one of my earliest childhood interests, so it only made sense to center a business around that. Also, it was really important for me to be able to take care of my family, and so even though I didn't have all the answers, I set out to go find out what I didn't know and then just start. One of my favorite quotes from Alex Hormozy is, "I cannot lose if I do not quit." So despite the fact that, the success that I dropped earlier was great and the growth that I dropped was great, but I've also made tens of thousands of dollars in mistakes. I've made bad decisions that have cost me opportunity costs in the tens of thousands in sales and marketing. But despite those blows, I licked my wounds, I got back up, and I tried again. And if I had never gotten up and tried again, I would have never found out the ways that I could improve and grow and learn from those mistakes. So now for the other half of the social media strategy is organic social media content. Many of you simply just know it as posts and videos, right? But that's the fancy terminology they're calling it these days. So organic just refers to the fact that they're not paid ads. You don't put money into them. They're just free. And that's the nice part, is that nobody needs to spend anything on it. You can just start a social media account for free. As long as you have a phone or an iPhone or anything like that, you just take videos and post it. Now, people get it confused a lot of the time and think that you need a video to go viral for it to be successful. But I think, as Vance was mentioning earlier, viral vanity metrics like views don't necessarily always equate to anything useful. So like, let's say a video gets 5 million views. What if you actually look at the analytics and all those views are a demographic of 13 to 17-year-old kids in Australia, Canada, right? So if we're a local business and you only have 5,000 views, but let's say the 5,000 views are actual people that live in the town that you're in, that 5,000 is worth infinitely more than the 5 million views of people who live in different countries, right? But if you're selling an international product, it's a different story, but we're here for local business primarily. I posted a video with 5,000 views that ended up getting us about $6,000 in booked jobs, and I didn't think anything of it, right? But I demonstrated a benefit from one of our services. It was a key scratch test. I took a key to the panel, scratched it up, and showed, hey, if you get the coding done, this doesn't scratch up the paint. And I wasn't trying to sell or pitch anyone in the video on it. I was just highlighting it in an entertaining way. It was just a fun video that we shot real quick using an iPhone. And then that garnered enough interest from existing clients that I had where they're like, hey, I've come to you for other services, but that new thing that you got is really nice. I want to get it on my car. And then they said, let me book a job, right? So it got me about $6,000 or more. I'm not tracking it anymore, but after we posted, that's how many people came and told me, I saw the video you put up. So organic content, when done right, can actually help bring people in without costing you anything, because those paid ads are always going to cost you the same amount every day, right? But it can also be a bit more reliable in the short term. With organic content, you have to build that up over time. You're not going to make your first post and it's going to blow up and you're instantly going to be rich overnight. You have to sit there and continue to build that online presence. But essentially, it allows you to be a part of conversations and build that connection with people without actually having that conversation with them yet. Before they even pick up the phone and call you, they might have watched 4 hours of your videos if you have enough videos posted, and just say like, hey man, I really like you and what you stand for and how you run your business, and you seem like a really nice guy. Like, I want to make sure I get my services done by you, right? And that can be a way to attract people to come to you without having to do all the heavy lifting yourself. So, for example, let's say you're in my niche and your job is to make cars look nice and shiny. So I can post a photo of every single car that comes in to the shop to try and showcase some of my work. And that's not a bad strategy. However, if that's the only thing that I post, it's severely limiting how impactful the posts could be. So one of the biggest reasons people like to engage with small business is that it's not a faceless and inhuman corporation. There are actual people that run them, people with faces, names, families, and stories. So then, don't you think that helping to build up the aspect of the page would be more beneficial, so that way viewers can actually listen in and connect with the people who are running the business? So of course you want to continue posting your products and services, but make it a smaller percentage. Don't make it every single thing, right? Showcase things like video testimonials from other clients or customers, right? I'm sure everyone in here probably has some VIPs that they love working with, and they love your business and what you do. You ask them for, a quick testimonial on video. That's going to be super impactful if you're actually able to post that, because that's a real person giving you a real honest review online, right? Somebody else watches that, that's probably going to speak a lot more than you just talking to the camera, because they might think, oh, you're just trying to sell me on something, right? You can post educational videos that give out free advice to show your viewers that you really know what you're talking about and you're an expert in your field or your industry, therefore allowing them to trust you more, right? Or you can do videos of the owner just showcasing things, so that way they can build that connection and that relationship with the owner, so when they come in to meet you, they already feel like they know you without even having, like, you might not know them, but they've already spent that time engaging with your content online, and they already want to be your friend, right? So with things like AI that are right on the horizon, that seems to be the topic these days on the news, people now more than ever want to see genuine authenticity, and they want to connect with real humans that have real stories. And even if you don't know how to make any of these posts or videos, you're not good at editing, you're not a cinematographer, you can hire someone to do that, like I did with my amazing creative director, Simon, over here. He helps me write my content, shoot the videos, edit the videos, and post all the videos to make up for the gaps in my knowledge, and he has more strengths that I don't have, right? So you can always hire an employee to assist you with that. So to recap, utilizing both of these strategies on social media has helped the business grow tremendously in these last 4 years, mistakes and all. And even if you don't know where to start, like I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of free resources online to help get the ball rolling, to point you in the direction that you need to go in. So I hope that by the end of today, some of you leave more inspired to start your own business or continue on the journey to improve your existing one. Kap kun kap. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Elijah Keys. I want to congratulate Dustin? Noah Dragon, who is fantastic and phenomenal, and Vance, who both did a fantastic job. I respect them a great deal. I am in a different business. I'm an attorney. My job is to do wills and trusts for my clients and to solve problems after death and to deal with all these other issues. But I'm in the relationship business. If you think about the 4 different ways that you can infinitely scale a business, there's only 4. And Naval talks about this, and Alex Hormozy talks about this, and a lot of other people do, and there's really 4 ways to infinitely scale a business. So you see explosive growth here. I started differently. So my story starts that I was working for other attorneys for 10 years, and sometimes I hated my job, and sometimes I loved my job. And my wife came to me one day, and she said, Elijah, I'm blind. And our kids need their dad. And you're married to your job. I see you for an hour a day. You work 9 to 10 hours in the chair, and you're commuting 3 hours every day. I need you at home. And so I told the managing partner who I worked for, my partner, I was a partner at a firm, my business partner, what I need to cut my time. So I did that. And then they fired me. Because my benefit to the company was the ability to put out a massive amount of work. I handled 40% of all cases running through the door. And I couldn't do that anymore. So if any of you have that experience, just know that there is life on the other side. One day, my wife and I'm a spiritual person, so my wife and I believe that we received a spiritual message. The message was, I've prepared something for you, go start a business. So I had $15,000 in the bank, and my wife had a job that paid our bills. And I put 2 butcher paper, the butcher paper that you get from IKEA that kids draw on. And we put 2 floor-to-ceiling butcher pieces of butcher paper on the wall. And I wrote down floor-to-ceiling everything that I needed in a law firm. And in 2 weeks, I solved it. And then I did it again. And 2 weeks later, I solved it. And then I did one thing. I put out on LinkedIn one post that said, I'm starting a law firm. And I figured most businesses start very slow. And they start with understanding that people come in and they see attorneys and they need to trust them, and then it grows very slowly. Just like what Noah said, it goes word of mouth and it grows very, very slowly. For me, I was cash positive after 30 days. Wow. And then the first year we closed $256,000 of business. Wow. And the second year we closed $450,000 of business. And the third year, we closed $750,000 of business. So last year, we cleared $1 million. And this year, we're on pace to be at 1.2. And I want to say that I did it all, but I couldn't. There's no way that one person could do that. I have an amazing team, and I have an amazing supporting wife, and I have amazing staff. But my tool is collaboration. For 10 years, I worked for other lawyers, and I gave value to them by doing work for their clients. But I also gave to my community. I gave 50 professional presentations to other attorneys, teaching lawyers expertise that I had, teaching them how to do what I did. I served on professional panels. I spent 5 to 10 hours every single week giving to my community, giving to people, just spending time giving as much as I could. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was doing it. I did it because I wanted to be connected. But what I was doing is I was giving value. And if you give value over time and you never ask for a thing, when you ask for one thing and only one, people always get it. And so my firm has grown by deepening relationships with existing people who send work to us, by deepening relationships with existing clients. I'm sorry, my voice is a little scratchy right now. Because I came from a fundraising event which we held for everyone, where we rented a shredding truck. A big problem that we have with our clients is that their parents store too much stuff and they have to clean out the house. So we rented a shredding truck and we opened it to everybody. We advertised it in the newspaper, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We advertised it everywhere that we could. And we invited everyone to come, and we invited the Alzheimer's Association. We raised more than $1,000 for them today. By trying to give people an opportunity to shred up to 7 bankers' boxes full of things. And some people brought 7, and everybody that did, I high-fived them. It just so happens that only 15% of the people that came today were my clients. And so we want to deepen relationships with people. What we do, I spent 10 years becoming really good at my craft, becoming an expert, being really good at what I did. Vance would not have been successful if he was not a good programmer. He needed a good product. Noah would not have been successful if his product sucked. My product is good, and I know that it's good. But I also need to provide the product to the people who need it. And the people who need it are people who can trust me, because when you walk into my office, you're going to sit down and you're going to share your deepest fears with your family that you've ever had in your entire life. And you're going to share it with some overweight, balding Jewish white guy. Right? How can you trust me? So the majority of my work on myself has been understanding how to train myself to help you. And so the best lesson that I ever learned in my entire career were four words. Either you win, I'm sorry, 5 words. Either you win or you learn. So I failed so many times. And you know what? It's totally okay. The first time I put up a social media ad, or the first time I put up a YouTube video, it sucked. But I would be surprised if someone came to me and said, Elijah, I did a social media post and it was great. I would say, or I'm sorry, if someone did a social media post and they said, I didn't do it good, I'm so bad. And the answer is no, you're new at it, you suck. And so something that we do at my company is that we train people. I offer people who don't have any experience in my field to come into my company, and I train them, I teach them. And they say they're so apologetic at the beginning. My most recent assistant that I hired said, I'm so sorry that I don't understand it. And I looked at her and I said, if you understood what you were doing right now, you would be an amazing prodigy and a gift from God. And that's just not who you are. You are a person, and I didn't hire you because you're good at this. I hired you because you can get good at this. Everyone in this room sucks at something, and it's totally okay. The thing that you need to do is focus on what you need to be good at and get good at it. The best business owners are problem solvers. The thing that I learned last week, I have a condition called ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. You would never think that an attorney would have that. Why am I successful? I didn't learn until Wednesday why I was successful. I promised my wife I would go and do a series of brain scans. I did them. It was stupid. It wasted time because I didn't get to see 5 clients, and it was really annoying. So my company lost revenue. We lost revenue opportunities. But what do we get? We got an understanding of what I'm really good at, why I'm good at things. So according to the ADHD doctor who I met with, he said, Elijah, what you should really focus on, what you're really good at, is you should be focused on sales, public speaking, and triage. Who here is a nurse or a doctor? No one? One person. Triage means taking a complicated set of facts where the person doesn't understand the problem, teasing information out of the situation, finding a solution, and then putting the work off to someone else who will do it. That's what I do every single day. And we're tripling down on that, where I'm now hiring people to take on portions of my job that I'm not so good at, so that I can have more time with people to do what I'm really good at. What I've learned is that I can learn things faster in certain places, but I also can learn things slower in others. And so some people are really, really good at sitting in a dark room, not talking to anyone, and doing tax returns. Totally cool. There are some people who are really good at networking with others, and they're memorable, and they're engaging, and they're enjoyable, and people want to know them. Totally cool. There are other people who are really good at building code, and are good at understanding how blockchain works, and are good at understanding how to put an after factory sealant on a car. Totally cool. Double down on your strengths. And if you need more strengths, develop them. I saw a quote from a 19-year-old kid who had started a computer company. And it reminded me of a friend of mine who dropped out of Purdue. Dropped out of Purdue when he was 19 or 20. And he said, I can learn everything that I need to learn on YouTube because Stanford puts its computer science classes for free online. Knowledge is free. Any of you can learn to do what I do. The problem is that you need to make the mistakes along the way to get good at what you need to be good at. My favorite poem is by a Belgian physicist who says, the path to wisdom is easy to explain. You err and err and err again. Err means to make mistakes, and less and less and less. My goal in my business is to find bigger problems, find a way through, and then find the next bigger problem. Because over time, what happens is your company will grow because you grew. The company is a reflection of you. My company, when people come in, people feel that they're warm and they're welcomed and my employees are kind, but they're slightly disorganized. Why? Because I'm disorganized. Because I can't track them, so I need to learn to be organized. That's hard. So my next hire is a personal assistant whose entire job is to chase me around, clean up stuff, and enforce what I ask them to do. Their entire job is to clean up the mess that I make when I walk through a room. Because I will. I know that I will. But that's a side effect of my strength. And so don't feel bad about yourself if you have a strength and you don't have another strength, if you have a challenge. Totally okay to have a challenge. Build upon it. One of the biggest things that we learned in the last 2 years is I read a book by a guy named Eliyahu Rosenblatt. He was a professor at NYU, and he taught about business. And he wrote a book called The Goal. And the goal is about a factory. The factory is supposed to put out widgets. They never say what the factory does. The factory is simply supposed to put out widgets. And the goal is to put out widgets faster. And so the question that was phrased by his mentor is, how do you put out widgets faster? You have to find the constraint. And so my firm works upon a business operation. I am not a lawyer that runs a business. I'm a business owner where the business offers legal services. And that's a different theory. I want predictable, reliable results. I want you to know that when you call, you're not going to talk to the lawyer, but you're going to talk to someone who can get you an answer to every question that you need within 24 hours. It doesn't have to be me. I want to go on vacation. I don't want to be working 14 hours a day because I don't want my wife to come to me and say, Elijah, I need you home. Because I coach the soccer team, and my colleagues hate their life, and I will never go back. This is where I live. This is what I'm committed to. I'm committed to my clients. And so we're committed to reducing friction between the beginning point when the client learns about the firm, to when the client comes in, to when the client signs, to when the client provides information, to when the client when we deliver services, to when the client offboards, to when we follow up with the client. I'm committed to reducing friction in that entire process and to make it faster and faster and faster and faster, because faster means more, and bigger companies simply do what you do, but they do it faster and better. That's it. Apple makes phones, but they do it faster and better than anybody else. And that's it. That's the secret. So I wish I had something better for you, but I really appreciate you listening to me ramble.
That was good. Well, Vance, we already heard of it from you. But
This has been great, Noah, Elijah. You can tell that part of the growth and their scale is connected to how much they love their customers and their clients, right? They're studiers of their customers and their clients, the people that they serve. Noah probably wouldn't be able to make better and better ads if he didn't know how to talk to who he was talking to, right? Elijah is the same way. He can go faster, he can go further if he goes deeper with his current customers. And at the end of the day, that is actually what should scale. Sometimes everybody's so hungry to understand, how do I scale? How do I scale? My question back to them is, should you scale? Are you ready to scale? Do you deserve to scale? Because scale actually shouldn't necessarily be the goal. It's helping people, right? And if you're not yet understanding at a deep level of how you best help people, then what you might be scaling is more problems. And so you've all met that company where you render services from them and it was a horrible experience, and then you try to reach out to customer support and you can never get a hold of customer support, and then you write in an email and they never respond back, and all of a sudden something that you try to engage with to solve a problem for your life has now created 10 more problems in your life. And I believe that those companies then maybe shouldn't have scaled because they didn't figure out the systems ahead of time to scale, right? Specifically for Overflow, one of the ways we've scaled is actually through partnership. And so paid ads, organic reach, social media, those are all really great. We do some of that for our business because of our customer. It's not as effective, right? So you have to be contextual to what your business is. We sell to pastors, nonprofit leaders, right? Church leaders, for example. That's one of our categories, right? University presidents, head of development, head of fundraising, American Cancer Society, chief development officer. These type of people, just think about a pastor. A pastor right now is not going to really respond to a Google ad, is not going to respond to a LinkedIn ad. How do I know? Because pastors are not on LinkedIn. And so I have to go to where they're at. They're at conferences that are talking about ways they can better pastor people. There are conferences at figuring out strategies on how to grow their church. So I connected with these conferences. I figured out how can I add value to these conferences. I became financial partners with these conferences. And based on that, we have gotten pretty much 80% of our business, right? And so a lot of times you can think about, okay, how do I grow my voice? How do I grow my sphere of influence? How do I grow my thing? Which is good. You should figure out how to kind of create those things if it's going to help people. But there are existing things out there that have been going on for a decade or a few decades that have been earning trust with thousands of people across kind of their tenure, that if you can add value to them, they'll unlock their world. And so ultimately, if this person has access to 1,000 people that they have now trust with, and they're saying, hey, you trust me and I trust Vance, that will then unlock that world for us. And so, but ultimately it really comes down to, again, what I was saying earlier, hey, just honor what's in front of you. Add value. I love that point from Elijah. Add value and don't expect things in return right away, right? Add value because you just want to add value, and just watch. Your world will get enlarged from that type of mentality.
I love it. I love it. One thing, yeah, dude, go.
There's a business coach who died a couple of years ago named Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn trained Tony Robbins, and he trained a lot of the business motivational speakers today. And he explained, he said, always leave a profit, no matter where you are. Don't take more than you're offered, and always leave things better than where you are. So one example that he gave, he said, well, if there's a shopping cart in your way as you're parking, put it away. And the question is, who are you benefiting? Are you benefiting the company? Are you benefiting the store where you're going? It doesn't matter. Exactly. The reason why it doesn't matter is because it's not about the shopping cart, it's about you. You should earn $1 million a year, not because you should earn $1 million. Each person in here can. You should earn $1 million a year because of the person you have to become to be worthy of the $1 million. If someone earns $1 million and they're not worthy of it, all of you would think of disgust. But if someone has grown, if someone has developed themselves, if someone has developed the giving attitude to try to provide value as many people as possible, and they don't ask for anything back except for payment for services, now you respect them. Become that person.
One thing I've kind of heard from all three of you is one of the main keys to growth is integrity. And so can you, if you're comfortable, can anyone share some stories about where you chose integrity over profit? Maybe like, if you're comfortable, a couple examples if you want. Also check the mic, make sure it's unmuted.
Test. Integrity. So most important thing in my business is trust. Customer has to trust that we are going to do right by them. Simply because they have no ability to understand the complexity of the issues that are in front of them, and they certainly don't want to pay me to give them a master class of 15 years experience in legal services, right? They don't want that. So trust is important. And so there have been many, many times where someone comes in and we do a meeting and they get cold feet afterwards. And I could certainly tell them, no, you hired me for services and we've started work. And so you have to pay me. You have to pay me the profit-driven contractual relationship value. And the answer should not be that way. That is the profit-driven enterprise. The actual enterprise should be, okay, I totally understand that. You should, you don't have to move forward. I'm not going to force you. If you're uncomfortable, you found someone else, totally cool. I'm fine with that. I just want you to get things done. But I have not been made whole, so we'll modify our contract. So you just pay me for the hours that we worked. We'll send you on your way. I've never had anyone say no because that seems fair. The most important thing there is not to push for profit, is to push for customer experience. I had someone come back today after 3 years. 3 years ago, I had that same experience with her. And she came today, she drove today from near San Francisco to come down to a free event to say, thank you, I'm ready to move forward with our services. I remember that you were fair. Thank you so much. Let's do this now.
So good. Well, I'll say that success is actually not always a fruit of integrity, but peace is always the fruit of integrity, right? And I want peace, right? I really want peace. I do want provision. I do want success. But first and foremost, I want peace. And so there's actually going to be people in your industry that don't choose integrity that may seem more successful than you, but they're not at peace, right? And so I think that is probably got to be our number one aim. I met with a mentor of mine. He's the founder of Hobby Lobby. Does anybody know Hobby Lobby? And he was telling me about this story. They're based in Oklahoma City. He's a man of faith. He has a lot of principle to his life. And he told me about this story where, a couple decades ago, a competitor, right, kind of messaged his office that they were going to bury him. They were going to bury his company because they had just got an IPO. They had raised all this money. And now that company, along with, the other competitor, they actually just filed bankruptcy, right? And, there are certain things where if left for enough time, I will say that time is the best truth teller. It's not necessarily going to be sustainable. And so I think our definition of success and scale is all contextual to opening up the aperture of time, right? And so one thing that he told me that I thought was really impactful to me is that sometimes you do things by principle, not just, and actually to Elijah's point, by profit, right? And so they were in a city in Memphis. They had opened up the store. In over a several-year period, the city just changed, right? And the whole kind of dynamic changed where it started to become run by gangs. And gangs would go in and they would literally rob the clerks at the store at gunpoint and things like that. It was unsafe for his employees, right? And so what he ended up doing is he wanted to shut down the store to protect his employees, but he had a 10-year lease where literally he was having to pay millions of dollars per year to keep this lease going. And multiple times, I think it was like 3 times within the first few years of them shutting down the store and still having to pay this lease, he got approached by a liquor store that wanted to take over their lease, right? And by principle, he just felt, based on his faith, that that actually would have made the city worse based on its current state. And so he said no 3 times. And you would think, oh man, you operate with integrity, you do the right thing, then you're going to be blessed. Then you're going to get a breakthrough. Then something good's going to happen for you financially. For all 10 years, he paid the lease. There was no return for him for doing the right thing. He was just doing the right thing. But 50 years into this journey now, they've been building Hobby Lobby for 50 years. They are the largest, they are the best in class in their industry, 1,020 stores. They're going to do $8 billion this year. And they take 50% of their profits and they give it back to philanthropy, nonprofits, generosity, and churches. And so that is just, right? So again, success is not always a fruit, especially in the short term of integrity, but peace always is.
I completely agree with that. I want to sleep at night, and operating a company according to the bottom line profit is always a loser. You need to operate with integrity and according to principles that you feel are important. So my principles are going to be different from Vance's, are going to be different from Noah's, and that's totally okay. But my principles, I'm a person of faith, and so I make sure that we operate according to the way that I feel that we should. And it's consistent, and it's reliable, and it allows me to feel good about what I'm doing. And so it allows us to scale better, I think, because even though we're not focused entirely on a bottom line in those specific principles, it allows me to feel better, and therefore I feel more whole and more encouraged. And according to my belief, it means that I'm rewarded more, okay? And so I follow Proverbs as well, and I follow a lot of other scripture in my own life to try to guide how I am working. The other day, I was talking with a friend about an issue, and a scripture popped into my mind several times during this conversation. And it was a scripture that said, lean not on your own understanding. But it's only half of the scripture. And so I looked it up, and it's from Proverbs. It says, lean not on your own understanding, but follow God, follow the Lord, and he will make your paths straight. And so at that point, I went back to my vision of where we were going, and I had to revamp it. And the answer became clear right away.
To finish this off and give my example about integrity, I really like that framing about peace, because sometimes you really can't put a financial dollar amount on your own peace, right? I'll use one example that happened recently in the shop. 1968 Trans Am comes in, beautiful classic car, right? One of the technicians had actually damaged the mudguard portion of the car, and this is a car from 1968. You're not going to find another one of those around. But what I did, right, was that I told the owner, and I said, basically, you have a blank check. Whatever I need to pay you to make sure that this car is perfect for you again, you let me know and I'll pay it, right? And honestly, like, with how much stuff is going on right now, we don't have a lot of cash flow like to spend on stuff like that. And I could have just said, sorry, man, get out of here. But if I traded thousands of dollars, right, by not offering to fix that for him, I would have lost my own peace and my own mental health, because I would sit there in the back of my mind just feeling horrible that I basically, messed his car up and then just sent him on his way and then kept the money, right? So I'm trading that like, money comes and goes, and I'm trading that for the ability to just not have to worry about that, right? And he is super understanding and super appreciative, and he understands too, mistakes happen. And the reason why he's not infuriated, that his classic car got slightly damaged, was because I offered to do whatever it took to make sure that it was right by him again, right?
We could probably just talk the rest of the time about how integrity is perfect for that. But one thing, and it's kind of in line with integrity, you all mentioned different ways of giving back without anything in return. But I guess where I was kind of thinking is, like, giving back without getting anything in return actually does have a return in the long run. Which I think where I'm trying to go with that is, we can't be short-sighted. We can't think about our next month and are we going to turn a profit next month? I mean, obviously, you have things like rent, payroll that you need to make, and you need to make sure you get that. But we can't be thinking so short-sighted. We have to think about the long goal, the long haul there. And so I think for everyone here, can anyone give an example about where you were thinking in the long term and it actually probably hurt you in the short term, or maybe did not benefit you at all in the short term, but either it paid off in the long term or it's going to pay off in the long term? Can anyone give examples on that? I'm pretty sure you will.
Yeah, I can. So the attorney tech industry is a niche market, but it's a big one. And when I first started my firm, I started my firm using attorney technology that was designed for the most amount of attorneys as possible, just because I needed the most robust tool and I needed information flow in one place. We have now found that that is not a good system, the one that we're using, because it's not as flexible as we need to be, because it doesn't allow us to use other tools in conjunction with it. It's very self-enclosed. It's not a tool that connects with everything. It's only a tool that connects with things that do not require it to change. And so what we're doing is that we're building, in order to do this, we have to hire a programmer, and we have to hire a marketing company, and we have to invest about $50,000 into a long-term sustainable build for what's called a client or customer relationship manager CRM. Because our CRM right now is very clunky, and I could just keep using it. And it would work, and it would be fine. But it makes my staff lives more difficult. And it's a constraint. It makes it harder for them. They have to track it, and we can't follow up on leads as effectively, and we can't follow up with clients, and we can't provide value. And so we're building our own CRM, custom built, which is a big, big ask. And I have 2 team members that are designated to it part-time, and we've hired another company for $25,000. But what it's going to do is it's going to make the streamlined onlining process much more robust and efficient, and it's going to allow us to connect with people better, faster, stronger. So we're investing time in a long-term strategic vision, but it's specifically to fix a pain point, but not just the pain point, to allow us to expand. So if you have some long-term goal that you're doing, don't just fix a problem. Expand beyond the problem so that you can use the same tool and the same goal to fix more problems in the future.
So before we move on, quick note on that. This tool that you're building, you had a problem in your firm that you wanted to fix, and you built a tool. It actually reminds me a lot about Vance's story. So I kind of want to ask, do you think in the long term, this is a tool that you might share with other attorneys in your field?
Let me take a step back and say that I'm not building the tool itself. I'm not building the code. What I'm doing is I'm taking a blank slate, customizable, efficient AI system, and I have to build and design the internal mechanisms myself. So if you were to think about, say I'm a customer relationship manager, if you go to Yelp, they have an automatic stream that you can just go back and forth. Or if you use Instagram, you can use a lot of tools that will simply send information back and forth. Well, this tool does that. The tool that I use now does that. But the new tool requires customized builds. Why do I know that it works? Because I have mentors of myself. Every quarter, I spend 4 days and I travel around the country to meet with other estate planning attorneys who are bigger than me and who have fixed problems that they have fixed, and I have fixed problems that they haven't fixed, and we share information back and forth. And so I am able to ask them questions and they ask me questions. So I know that 4 of the people in that group have fixed their problem by using this tool, so I know that it works. It just so happens that I'm a little quirky. I do things big. Go big or go home. If I fail going big, totally fine, but I know that I will never fail completely. So we are going much bigger than anybody else simply because I want things to go long term. I'm not investing for today. I'm not investing for today's problems. I'm investing for problems 5 years down the road.
So I think one thing that you can also consider as well, and this is a little bit of giving back and a little bit of losing short term but investing long term, is that I actually try to actively seek out car clubs for like local colleges, because when I first got into like modifying cars, right, I was young, I was in college, and I was broke. And when you're working minimum wage, car parts are expensive. And so I completely relate to being a young car enthusiast, and the time and the drive and the passion is there, but they don't have a lot of money. And so they're not the demographic that I'm trying to make money off of. I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, I want you guys to, here's a 10% discount. No. I'm offering them some of my services at material cost. I will do the labor install for free. Part of the reason why is because that does give me a nice amount of, maybe someone has a nice car, and then we can leverage that a little bit for posting online and marketing. But mostly I'm hoping that long term, that will put out goodwill into the car community, and that can continue to spread from there. Because then maybe someone else might be like, hey man, like Dragon Auto really did an amazing job on my car with this, this, and this when they're at a local meet. Because I also can't be at every single car meet in the Bay Area, I'm busy working. And so by doing that goodwill and putting it out there, sometimes you might want to sponsor a group where you might take that short-term hit, Maybe you'll work for free. Maybe you might do it at a small loss, but it might pay off dividends in the future as well.
Anyone have anything else to add on that one?
I mean, I would say I talked about it earlier where we give 10% of our revenue, especially as a startup in the early days. That's really hard to do, right? Because you're trying to measure out every single dollar to make sure you can reinvest in your business. And so 10% off the top, whew, that's kind of like a stretch. But ultimately, as we were raising funding for our Series A, we had raised a seed round of $3 million. We were going for another $10 million to continue to accelerate the company. One of the investors that we pitched, they were Salesforce Ventures up in San Francisco. Salesforce Ventures, they kind of pioneered in the corporate space. It's called Pledge 1%, inspiring other corporates to give either 1% of their equity, of their time, or their revenues or profits back into the community. And so when I told them about what Overflow does, they were so challenged because they were like, we do 1%, and you guys do 10%. And they like the product, they like our team, but that was really the reason why they invested $1 million in that Series A in Overflow. And so we had no idea that it would inspire a company like Salesforce to want to come behind us. But because we were convicted on these are the principles that we're going to build our business on, it then ended up, benefiting us later.
I love that. I love that. Well, we are approaching our time a little bit, but I think we have an epic online audience, but I want to give a benefit to some of the people in the room, and I actually want to open it up to see if there's anyone who has questions for this panel on growth, scale. No questions too big or too small, but we have a lot of experience. We have lots of years and lots of different tactics here on this panel, and then you have me. So does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? Yeah, so if you shout it, I can repeat it. We don't have a mic runner, and that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have an e-commerce company, and right now we're trying to scale. I just started a company 9 months ago, and we do freeze-dried exotic tropical fruit snacks, like dragon fruit, jackfruit, and coconut. And right now I'm trying to grow, and my question is on paid advertising. So I have a lot of struggle with that, right? Like we're new, we don't have a lot of money, and where do we spend the money? Like there's a lot of platforms out there. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Amazon. So do you have any like advice on that, on like new business?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
the people online, real quick, to reiterate the question, new business about 9 months in, not a huge marketing budget, but kind of where's the best place to park your marketing funds online?
So I think a lot of this really depends on understanding your dream client audience, right? And so it is exotic Asian fruits, and I think that generally you'd be targeting like the Asian demographic, right? And even down to the age and the generation that they belong in. And so by identifying this dream customer in your mind, like you should know all the details about them because that will help you identify where they spend their time, what they're paying attention to. So for example, TikTok, extremely Gen Z heavy, right? Instagram, a lot more millennials. Still plenty of Gen Z, but plenty of millennials on Instagram. And Facebook is primarily more like Gen X and the baby boomers, right? And so you would want to focus your advertising spend based off of that target demographic, right? And sometimes it can surprise you, so you want to dabble just a little bit. But for me, I focus most of my main budget on Instagram is because my target demographic is like the tech millennial that probably just bought a new car, people who are in 30 to 40, and they might commute in their new Tesla or their new EV. And so I understand they spend more of their time on Instagram. I want to put more of my budget on Instagram. So there's a little bit of market research that you can do on that, but I think finding ways to identify all the details about your dream customer are really important to understand where you're going to find them at.
And you can even try organic too, where that sounds like a product that potentially could get a lot of engagement, right? Exotic Asian fruits, and you get people's like reaction videos to after they taste it and things like that. You maybe work with some influencers if your demographic is millennials on Instagram to post it and things like that. You don't even have to only start with money. You can start testing it even just organically to see.
Do
what
you have
engages.
durian by chance? Any durian?
No, we don't. We have jackfruit.
Okay, jackfruit, got it. So, like he was saying, like you can possibly offer free products, right, to other people with follower bases, and then that way they can like make a video about it, and you can get some organic reach about that, right?
You said that you learn social media by yourself, but for your own company, do you hire out or you do it yourself?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I learned how to do paid ads so that way I could get the ball rolling because my daily ad spend was very small originally. It was about $40 a day. Very good return off of $40, but in terms of scale, like if you're e-commerce, those numbers can go much, much higher. But it was important for me to understand what I was doing because eventually when I wanted to outsource it to the marketing agency that I now work with, I wanted to vet them because I've worked with other agencies before in the past where, you know, they are all talk on the call and then, you know, they get in there and they don't deliver. And so I'm one of those clients where I will look at all the metrics and I'll be like, hey, can you give me some key performance metrics? And I'll really get in deep with them. And if they don't know what they're doing and they're not offering a good service, then I'll be able to find that out. So I wanted to learn just enough to do the basics. And then from there, I went to go vet the agency that I currently work with.
And to piggyback off that a little bit, I think to get started, especially when your marketing budget is on the lower side, it is really important to get familiar with it on how to do it yourself. I work with clients, and one thing that I learned early on that I have to specify is the amount that I'm paid to manage your ads, your digital ads, is not your actual advertising budget. It's on top of that. And so if you pay me X amount of dollars, your marketing budget is actually on top of what you're paying me for the service. But there comes a point where managing ads and even responding to leads and qualifying leads takes up a massive amount of time. So then you might have to kind of make a decision on, okay, am I going to sleep less and work more and do this? Am I going to hire someone, or am I just going to contract that part out to make my life easier? And so I think at the beginning it's important, as Noah said, to get familiar with that on your own. That way you can vet out different companies. But eventually you're going to have to make that choice on where, and it's kind of like what Elijah was talking about, know your strengths. And so you want to be leaning into your strengths fully. And what that means is there's a YouTuber named Marquez Brownlee who talks about his business being an octopus, and he needs to know which arm to cut off and when. And so as a business owner, especially a startup, you're an octopus with multiple arms and you're doing everything. But over time, you need to learn which arms to keep and which ones to chop off. And so marketing, you might find out that you're amazing at it and you have a huge skill. And then you should keep doing it, hire people, train them how to do it, and then you will be thriving in your marketing and your advertising all in-house. But it may come to a point where you're just like, I hate this, I don't fully understand it, I know enough to get by, and then that might be a time to kind of start contracting that part out. But I think what Noah said is the most important part is knowing your audience. You have to know your market first, not just the demographic, but the locations, and then find out where they are and kind of meet them where they are. I would also say take a page out of Vance's book of doing the partnerships. So find out places where you can display your product for people to walk up and try them. Because with exotic fruits, first off, I should be your customer. But you need to be in locations like this with a booth, you know, like some of the booths we have, offering free products, because if someone tastes it and it's great, they're going to want to get information and come back and buy more.
Yeah, like the Costco strategy.
Yeah. That was good. All right, any other questions? All right, I see white shirt in the back. Your hand shot up, so go for it. Yeah. To repeat the question for the online audience, it was, to sum it up, it's how do you manage that work-life balance, especially in a new company? Maybe there's for Vance, I'm pretty sure there's a portion when you were pastoring and starting the company at the same time. That's kind of where I'm at now too, is bivocational. So how do you manage the work-life balance, and what are some boundaries that you have in place to kind of protect that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pastoring today. I'm still a pastor at a church called Vibe Church in Mountain View, and we're running this company. We got 4 kids under the age of 8, so if you pray, you can pray for me. And yeah, you know, I've been married for about to celebrate 13 years. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, my answer to that is, if you're ambitious and if you want to help a lot of people and if you want to have an impact, balance is a myth. Actually, I don't even really like that illustration because literally just think about the word balance. Like, it seems very fragile, right? And so I don't think about life as balance. I think about life as principles and priorities. And so at any given time, it's not saying that I'm going to let go of things that I feel called to, but certain things take priority over another in any given time. And so yes, like, I love my church, or yes, I love my company, but when I get home at 5:30 or 6 p.m. and my kids go to bed at 7 p.m., that's really like the hour in a weekday that they're seeing me. I'm going to give them all of me in that time, and I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, right? And I'm not trying to balance and maybe I'm going to fall type of situation. Is now my company knows that I'm probably not going to respond from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm just not. Like, they're not literally going to get a response from me. And because they're now trained in that, they now understand that, hey, those are certain times that have boundaries, right? And so instead of balance, maybe it's just understanding rhythms and boundaries that can then give you the capacity to do everything that you feel called to. At the end of the day, though, I don't like the word busy. A lot of people will come up to me at church or in my business and they'll, hey, Vance, I know you're busy, but, and I try to stop people and say, it's not that I'm busy, I'm limited. I'm a limited human being. And so you don't need to caveat what you're about to say because you think I'm so busy I can't get to it. It's like, no, I want to understand, and I'll let you know what I can do to what measure I can do it, right? And so at some point you have to understand that you have limitations, and then you have to do a trade-offs analysis based on the principles and the priorities that you've set for your life. So everybody should actually figure out what type of, not just vision you have for your life in terms of one aspect of business, but you should figure out what vision you have for your life as a father, as a brother, as a son, as a community member. Actually define those 5 areas in your life and write a vision statement for each of those. And that'll give you the muscle memory in moments where it's high pressure on what should be priority when. Does that make sense?
There's a quote I heard, you're talking about vision. There's a quote I heard recently is, when the vision is unclear, the cost is always too high. And I think having a vision over your life will answer all those questions for you. Because, I live my life on priorities. Like, surprisingly, like most of this panel apparently, and some people in the room, I'm pastor and go to church, and so my priorities are God first, family second, work third. And work is so high up there because I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. But everything falls in that order. And so when it comes to work, when my family has a need, I will drop whatever because my company could collapse tomorrow. It won't. I built it more sustainable than that. But my family is around forever. And if I put my work at the expense of my family, then my priorities are just completely messed up. But I'll give a couple tangible things that I did. Because Vance, you pretty much covered the whole overarching priorities, which that was good. I learned some stuff from what you just said. But a couple of tangible things I did is I identified times in the day that were, for lack of better terms, dead. And so lately, with Expo planning and everything, I've been a little bit more tired in the morning. But I realized that I had a dead time between 6:30 a.m. and about 8 in the morning. And so I decided I was going to go to sleep a little bit earlier and wake up earlier so I could get started with work by 6 because that was all time. My daughter is in her room, she's sleeping. My wife is either resting in bed or working out, and I was just in bed sleeping, wasting time, and that was time I could use. And because I did that, I'm able to pick up my daughter from school at 2 o'clock and hang out with her for a while, maybe go back to work while she does homework or plays video games with friends, but I'm able to leave work at 2. Who in here can leave work at 2? Like that's a blessing by itself. but I can leave work at 2. I can go pick up my daughter, and we can hang out and have quality time. And then when she wants to, work on her homework or play video games with friends, I can go back to work. Another tangible thing I did is my office, she loves hanging out at my office because I have a cool office. And that was just a kind of a niche, tangible thing I did to make it to where she can hang out with me while I am working, but she can be also working on something, and I can be productive and have quality time with my daughter, which has been really cool. You look like you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Vance and Tim pretty much nailed it, but I'll deep dive just a little bit more on like a little bit of tangibles. So, like, I think first you have to really define like a choice and a sacrifice, because like if you're not attached to something, you can't sacrifice something. Then it's really just you're making a choice between doing 2 things. So the things in your life that you really care about, that you're really attached to, you have to decide, is that worth sacrificing, for something else? So for example, like I'll give you a funny one, like I got a cat during COVID, and I basically raised that kid like my son, right? Other pet owners, I'm sure you can relate. And he actually ate some string and almost died last year. And so that was really a big wake-up call for me, because looking at that pet like my kid, I had spent so much time working that I always thought, he's gonna have him for the next 15 years, right? Well, I almost lost him at 3. So now it's very important for me to make sure that I spend more time at home, so that way I can spend time with my cat. On top of that, the thing that's important to you, like another example is that I value spending time with my friends, socializing, playing video games together, because we can't always see each other, but sometimes it's easy for them to squeeze in like an hour of game time. I don't multitask different things at the same time, right? So like before, I used to be all over the place, and I would be half in on work and then half in on trying to hang out with my friend and stuff. I practice being present. If I'm going to choose for this hour to spend time with my friend playing a game, I'm gonna be fully present and devote that time to my friend, so that way when I go back to work for 14 hours, like I actually got the most use out of that quality time, right? So also I'd like to commend all the parents that are also business owners in the room. I don't have a kid. That might be in the future for me, but not yet. I honestly don't know how you do it. So big kudos to you if you do both.
These guys are incredible, and they're amazing. I only have one small thing to add, and that is that your relationship with your spouse is more important than any other relationship in the world. And so if you're going to make a work schedule, negotiate that into your relationship. There are 4 pillars of any relationship. And if you have agreement on those 4 things, I will tell you all a secret that will avoid everyone in this room divorce that no one will ever tell you. And there are 4 things that if you come to agreement on, you will almost never get divorced. And it is if you agree on how you raise your children, how you spend money, what religion we practice, and who's responsible for dealing with each other's in-laws. If you have agreement on those things, your divorce rate is less than 5%. It just so happens that if one of you is a small business owner, your divorce rate drops to below 2. So have that as part of your negotiation with your spouse, so that you understand, so that your spouse is bought in with that, and then you can feel supported. I completely agree with the panel here, where they said, when I'm focused on something, that's what I'm doing. And when I'm focused on something else, that's what I'm doing. When you're at work, be at work. When you're at home and you're doing emails, be on emails. When you're with your family, be on family. It's okay to not be great at everything, but it's not okay to not be present.
That's good. That's good. We have time for a couple more questions. So, all right, yeah, go for it. Yeah, to repeat the question, it's at a good point, wants to scale up, where do you start? One quick comment is, I don't think it's too far-fetched to expect your employees to know the green book you were talking about, because if there's 6 of you and you're looking to expand, you're all in on the ground floor and you all need to be on the same page. That didn't really have to do with what you asked, but that's just a quick comment. But I saw you raise the mic. You want to start this one off? Oh.
So my work is also very complicated, where we have a beginning point and an end point, and there's 1,000 things that can go wrong in between. And to proceduralize that is very difficult, because the procedures are built in this green book and it's built in this institutional format. And so what I have found successful is to set up standards and procedures about the connecting things between each individual stage. and have people who will come back and triage issues. If I see an issue, I can answer it and then move it forward. So if you become the master who can answer the question with 1,000 soldiers who can then perform the action, you can help to build them up so that they can start answering more questions and they'll come back less. That's what I've done. So I've institutionalized and proceduralized and standardized the connection process between the different steps. So we have stages, but the specific steps in between we have to teach. And so people come to me and I have to develop them. And so the thing that I'm saying is that you have to proceduralize and institutionalize the steps that are standard, routine, and done on a regular basis, and then you have to have people ask you questions and you point at the book. That's what you go and do. And if you have questions, come and see me, and then you have to trust them to go and do it.
Yeah, that was perfect. I would just say that if you're going to try to figure out where to start in systemizing it, there are probably repeatable things, and in the ones that are more like one-off, okay, start bucketing it. And the one-offs are probably going to eventually turn into 10-offs, right? Like where is their heat, and prioritize it based on those kind of repeatable ones that are coming up. And then that'll be probably good to prioritize those so that you can handle those more scalably.
Yeah. I would say, kind of even commenting on something Vance and I talked about earlier, is don't be afraid to expand slowly. And so one thing I did with my company is I didn't, a weird advertising company that's not advertising. We didn't advertise all of last year. We only gained clients by reference and word of mouth, but that was very intentional because I wanted to make sure that when I scaled up, I had a solid infrastructure to where things would not slip under the rug. And honestly, me and my team, we're still figuring that out. And so we're still not advertising. We are ganging and we are growing, but it's what we're doing is we're putting systems in place, and then we'll grow maybe one more client and make sure that the system works. We'll test it. We'll put a stress test on it. And then once we know that that is working, then we'll start, we'll expand again. Or maybe, we'll see weak links and we'll fix them. We'll put systems in place to fix them. And then we'll add another client, and then we'll test the waters. We'll see there. So don't be afraid to grow slow and test your foundation. I think having, though, a very solid structure with systems is vitally important, especially with complex things. You don't want to be on the phone 24/7 with your employees answering questions because they came across something that they weren't familiar with. You want to have a system in place to where they can refer to something, get their question answered, and if they can't, maybe they refer to another person who's trained, who you've trained a little bit more, a supervisor maybe, and if they don't have the answer, then they come to you. And so having those systems in place will make it to where you can grow in a healthy way, but also you won't kill yourself in the process.
So there's two tools that I want you to learn. One of them is called Loom, and one of them is called Zoom. Okay, you can record your video. So what you need is a training manual. You need a manual where if you teach the lesson once, you can organize it within an entire framework and tell people how to do it again. And the way to do that is really easy. You record the video of you talking to your staff member, and then you link it to the Green Book, and you say, this is the video of how you do this. And now, if you link it within an overall structure, now you have training of you teaching the same thing to the same people. There are only 3 ways to grow a business, and Tim is absolutely right. So that's concept 1. Number 1 is training manual with videos so that you don't have to write it, you just record it, number 1. Number 2 is understand that there are 3 ways to grow a business, a service business. I'm not talking about cars, and I'm not talking about code. I'm talking about service provider, 3 ways. Number 1, get more customers to provide the existing service. Number 2, get more services to provide to each customer. Number 3, raise your prices. If you have people coming in, you can try to scale to satisfy demand at the current price point, or you can reduce the number of people coming in by raising your prices. And understand that the people are coming because they find value in you. And if you can only I can take exactly 14 to 18 clients per month, but if I have 22 people knocking on my door, my prices are too high. And so I need to raise my prices. So next month, I raise my prices and I send an email to every single potential client and I say, you know what, I'm really sorry if you haven't come in yet, but we're raising our prices and I will give you 2 months under the existing pricing scheme because we have too many clients and we're turning people away. So simply raise your prices, or you could scale, which is develop the infrastructure to teach the new person from the expert using an existing tool to make it efficient for you. You don't want to be explaining it 10 times exactly the same way. Explain it once, record it, save it, identify where it is in the entire chain of events, and you're done. Then do it again the next day.
Real quick, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, these guys pretty much killed it. I actually relate a lot to your situation because my team is similarly sized and we're going through the exact same thing right now. But the guideline that they gave is exactly what I'm doing. So I'm currently in the process of doing it. I would just say maybe don't stress too much about having it be perfect. And it's always going to be a work in progress as you try to fill out those new questions that keep popping up. But if you make sure that it gets documented, then hopefully it doesn't continue to pop up 500 times again in the future, right?
All right, we have time for one more question, and then we're gonna call it wraps on this. Does anyone have one more question? Oh no. Wait. Oh, that was a tie. That was a tie. Here, we'll go in the back.
How do you choose your floor fees, or when you hire someone to train your company? And what I think is, what if you make a mistake and that person's not a nice person after all, and you don't want to work with them anymore?
Yeah. So to repeat the question, it was essentially, how do you make sure you hire the right person? And so, as someone who hasn't hired many people, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over.
Overflow right now is 35 people, and we have interviewed a lot of people. I think what we've learned is that we don't want to just try to compel people to work at Overflow, but when they get to me, typically, or my wife, who's the VP of people, are typically the last interview. And what we do in our portion of the interview, I mean, I already trust my team loves this person and they want this person to work at the company. So what our job is to try to convince them not to work at the company. We actually give them an anti-sell. We tell them 7 reasons why they should run for the hills and not work for Overflow. And it's documented out. We make this pitch every single time. If after that they still want to work for Overflow, then they're probably a right fit. We don't have a 100% hit rate. Right? Sometimes, like you said, you know, you can't know somebody really intimately in an interview process. And so then when times get tough and there's pressure, true colors start showing up. And this is my philosophy. You could take it with a grain of salt. But ultimately, you know that saying, sooner rather than later, right? So when I think about firing people, it's better if it's just sooner, right? You just got to let them go because then it'll become toxic to the culture and it'll actually not be good for anybody, right? And so it's actually hire, slow, fire, fast. Hire, slow, fire, fast, and then you can keep health in your organization.
I like the hire, slow, fire, fast. There was, in an organization that a friend of mine worked for, there was a culture issue. And it wasn't necessarily that the people were the wrong people, but they had the wrong culture. I passed this information along because I heard someone in a conference, it might have been one you were at, and they said, well, if you push culture on someone, what if they leave? And then the guy's response was, well, what if they stay? And that changed my whole perspective on hiring. Is like when it comes to the firing fast, it's like, yeah, I 100% agree. Once you get the idea that someone is the wrong fit, just rip the Band-Aid off, because the longer they stay, the longer that culture is poisoning the company.
So I actually did have this issue more recently, and that was just one of the many things that I figured. I'm like, I don't actually know how to do this properly. I don't really have the answers. So I'm going to go online and try and see, right? So I ended up finding a video that was somebody with 30 years of business experience, built and grew 16 companies. He put up a 2.5-hour long video. One of the chapters said how to fire people. So I went to that one because that was the question that I had, right? I listened to it, and I mean, a lot of what he was saying makes sense, right? So essentially what you guys had already said, if you identify it, you have that responsibility and role as the business owner to have that hard conversation, but there is still a proper way to do it. And so what he was mentioning was that, like, if anything, help them get into their next position or their next job and just be like, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, but so far I don't really think that this is like a good fit for XYZ reason, but I'm more than happy to help, you know, cover your agreed upon salary for the rest of the month. You can stop work and I'll help transition you into your next job. So those are things that you could possibly do to help smooth out the transition so it's not very dramatic and very negative, right? So it's a more positive experience for everyone involved, right?
Just to piggyback right off there might be some times where you might have to fire someone for ethical or hopefully never, but a criminal reason. And I just want to make it very clear that doesn't apply to those situations. That applies to where people they're good, but they're just not the right fit. Maybe you two don't work well together, but they're good at what they do. So I just wanted to make that very explicitly clear. Sorry, go ahead.
The one thing that it's important to do at my company is to hire for culture and intelligence. So just like what Vance said and what Noah said, they said that if the person isn't a good fit, you want to be kind, but you have to be very firm that you as the owner have a responsibility to protect the company. But when you're hiring people, you need to hire based upon your values and intelligence. In my company, people don't need to know exactly how to do the job, as long as they're smart enough to know how to do it. And the most important thing is that they have the right culture. This actually comes from the Navy SEALs, who have kind of a paradigm of how do they trust people that they want to be on their team. And it's just two axes, it's just two things. Are you good at what you do, and are you trustworthy? If you're good at what you do but you're untrustworthy, nobody wants to work with you because you're a toxic leader. If you're bad at what you do and nobody trusts you, then you're simply incompetent and nobody wants to be with you. If you're good at what you do and you're trustworthy, then of course everybody wants you. But if you're bad at what you and you're trustworthy, it's better for the organization than if you're good at what you do and you can't be trusted. So the most important thing at my office, as I tell every single person, don't lie to me. Be honest. If you can't be at work, just tell me why. Family at my office comes first. If somebody has a family emergency, go home. It's totally okay, but don't lie to me. Somebody lied. They had to go.
I like the zero tolerance for lying. That's a good one. I would say, do you have any more comments before? Okay, I would say to button this up, you're gonna in your career, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna hire people who aren't a good fit, and maybe you just won't even realize it until maybe a year or whatever later. And that's just gonna happen. That's the life of the business. But I think if you apply what we talked about, that's a good way to kind of help filter out some people. There's a couple questions specifically I heard that were really good at kind of identifying someone's mindset. One of them was, hey, if the company was struggling, would you work for a month for free? And you'll really get an idea of their mindset, their commitment, like how much they want to work for your company by the answer to that question. Another thing, it's not a question, but someone said, I always tell a dark joke in my interview and see the reaction because I like to make jokes, and that's just who I am. And if they don't like jokes, then we're not going to work well together. So they always make it, and if the person laughs, they're like, okay, I might be able to get along with this person. And so I think that was all good. It's 4:04. We're 4 minutes past our time limit. I just want to give a hand to this panel right here. This was amazing.